I started with a text message exchange with the foreign minister of Russia. I was at Florence at the time, and I still had his number, so 3 days into the war I sent him a text message saying that, Sergei, please stop this madness. You're the only one who can stop him. And he answered, who do you mean, Zelensky or Biden? So what I'm trying to say is that there is an element of cynicism sometimes in international relations, and after a less rather than more fruitful exchange of 8 or 9 messages, I decided, okay, I'll leave it be. But for me, especially as a Finn, this was a big moment when I realized that now the basic tenets of the international order as we knew it, based on the tripod of independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of a nation state, was violated. Then, of course, one thing has led to another, and we've seen a change in the world order by and large. So right now, I would argue that we are in the middle of a change of an order where you really have 2 more or less opposing tenets. One is multipolarity, which, as we can see, is leading to an a la carte, rather messy disorder. When power vacuums, when someone leaves a field of international relations, a power vacuum emerges and someone is out there to fill it, whether it's in Sudan, whether it's in the Middle East, whether it's in Ukraine. And on the other side, you actually have this, in my mind at least, dream of a continuation of a multilateral world order where there are strong international institutions and rules which you abide by. My second point today is about the balance, and I've simplified it in this book into a triangle of power. And my argument is that you have the global West, the global East, and the global South. So the global West is more or less 50 states, at least up to a point led by the United States, which I now, of course, argue that is shifting because of the approach of the current administration, which is different from previous one. I'm not making a value judgment whether it's wrong or right. I'm just making a realistic statement that it's different. And difference you have to live with in foreign policy. This system, at least previously, wanted to preserve the current order. On the other side, you have roughly 25 countries led by China in the global East, followed, of course, by the likes of Russia, perhaps Iran, North Korea, and 21 other states that vote with them in the UN, more or less. They want to change the order. If you look at the rhetoric of Russia, for instance, it's all about changing the world order based on nationhood and sovereignty. Read Russian spheres of interest. And China saying that, yes, we want a multipolar world which is not led by, AKA, the United States. My thesis is that the one who's going to decide the new world order is the global South. And I know that it's unfair to lump 125 countries together, but you have key swing states that will have an impact of what the world order will look like. The likes of India, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, Argentina, Brazil, Mexico. And this is regardless of the triangle of power between the global West, global East, and the global South, and regardless of, what the United States is going to do. And my argument is that if the global West wants to win this game, in other words, preserving at least the remnants of the current world order, then it needs to reach out to the global South. And I have defined a concept which I call values-based realism and dignified foreign policy of a way in which you do it. So you have to understand that you stay true to your values. So in our case, or at least in my case, democracy, freedom, protection of minorities, rule of law, equality, justice. but you realize that in order for you to solve the world's big problems, climate change, technology, pandemics, development, immigration, you can't do it with people who are, well, only Finnish or Swedish, if you know what I mean, or Nordic. So you come to this realization. What is interesting for me now as a political scientist and student of IR is that I thought that we would use values-based realism towards the global south and the global east. But there seems to be a tendency now that you have to use values-based realism also inside the global west. So that's kind of changed, I think, the game. That's why I still see it as a fairly useful tool. Then my third and final point before I conclude is to say that, yes, we have an order. Yes, we have this balance, which is a triangle of power. Now, what are the dynamics? And here, very shortly, I'll cut corners. There are three dynamics: competition, conflict, and cooperation. And my argument is that competition is good as long as there are rules around it. So it's okay to have geopolitical competition. It's good to have economic competition or technological competition because that actually advances humanity and mankind. But the problem is if you don't contain that competition, have rules for it, if it's only transactional and deal-based, you end up in conflict. And what we saw after the Cold War was local conflict, right? It was very much sort of civil wars, if you will. There was very rarely a regional conflict, as we're seeing now, with, for instance, in the Middle East, or with Russia's aggression in Ukraine, let alone the third one, which is a global conflict, which things can spill over into. So my argument is that we need cooperation, and the simple reason is self-interest. If you want to solve climate change, if you want to solve AI, if you want to solve immigration, if you want to solve development, if you want to solve the energy crisis, you cannot go it alone. So you need to cooperate. And right now when the world is in a flux, I hope that we can sort of come back to the mode of cooperation. Again, I stress agency. You can't detach yourself from the realities that we are in right now. You can only try to impact it. And therefore I conclude that I think the rejigging of the New World Order would take somewhere between 5 to 10 years. And obviously, you have different scenarios. I go through those in my conclusions. I won't reveal them here. But different possibilities of the direction in which the world will go. But I hope that, we don't get it wrong, as they did after World War I. I hope that we don't get lazy as we did after the Cold War when I was studying. So this is a call for you guys to get serious about what you're doing. And I hope that we get it more or less right as the leaders did after World War II. I think the New World Order that we create in the next decade or so will actually define the world for the end, towards the end of the century. So it'll be very much that type of a moment that we are dealing with. And of course, finally, if you want my 2 cents of the triangle of power, it can be a triangle of power between the global west, global east, and global south. That's kind of the Helsinki solution of the OSCE in 1975. Or it can be a Yalta solution, which is a triangle of power between China, Russia, and the United States. With these words, happy to have a conversation. Thanks.